Hey stream fans, welcome back. I'm gonna try to have a mostly quiet stream. Not that I can do much about the fan noise that is obviously there, but yeah, I'm trying to do less rambling and more just quiet co-working and obviously getting pestered by the cat. But yeah, welcome back and thanks for joining us again. And maybe a very quick update before I go completely quiet. I don't know how quiet I'll be able to be, but I'm gonna try to be less rambly than usual. Yeah, so I'm in the middle of trying to move shop. I feel like this year has been kind of the culmination of a bunch of attempting to live in this space, this concrete box that makes people jealous every time I post photos of it, apparently. But it's just actually not that practical for me in a bunch of ways, and then, like, most pressingly, it's just way too expensive. So I've got a plan to get out of here. I'm trying to buy a house, trying to move to a different city kind of nearby, but decidedly out of the Bay Area. And so my place is more of a box mess than usual because of that. Also, this stream might be kind of choppy. I've been doing my best to try to prioritize this, just like the CPU priorities of the different processes, but all my computers are busy transcoding video right now. And so, yeah, the computer that's running my stream is also running a bunch of isopod video processing jobs. And then my other workstation is doing a bunch of transcoding jobs to convert everything into H.265 that I can in order to save hard disk space, because I have way too much archived media that is taking up space on my hard disks and in my offsite backups, and there's a ton of space I can save by compressing that stuff more, so I'm trying to do some of that. Anyway, and as usual, you can view the stream from either YouTube on the Scanlime-in-Progress channel or twitch.tv/scanlime, or you can get it directly from the source at live.diode.zone/scanlime. Yes, all the computers are busy transcoding video, and there's tons of fan noise. One of the many problems with this space as a living and working space, unfortunately, is that it's not really possible right now for me to have a quiet space to do streaming and recording in. So that's going to be one of my big focal points in designing the new space that I'm trying to move into. So I want to have a dedicated, small, but sound isolated kind of room for doing streaming and recording and editing, and have all the loud equipment elsewhere. Right now the limitation is really the USB and the video cabling. Also the thing where this is just one big concrete box and I don't have multiple spaces for anything. I don't know if anybody's actually here. I'm trying to make sure the audio is still coming through, but actually the UI for OBS is being really unresponsive because of the aforementioned CPU overload on this machine. Tuco just always wants to play. But yeah, I think most pressingly I need to clean up this awful mess on my desk, which is mostly the winch that needs to be reassembled. I think this winch mostly just needs to be reassembled. I think I left it a while ago because I was waiting for some epoxy to cure, and then just didn't get back to reassembling it, and hopefully Tuco hasn't broken anything in the meantime. I think a couple of things happened in the meantime that kind of put a halt on this reassembly. One is that a different winch also broke down, so I have 2 winches working right now. One that is on the desk here, which has a working motor. This is, like, we redid this, but it just needs to be reassembled. So this is potentially a working winch soon. But then the winch that's over in that corner is like, it died, like, basically the same day I was putting this back together, or starting to put it back together. And then all of that also happened at around the same time. I was realizing that I just really cannot stay in this place, and Tuco Flyer was one of my big motivations to try to stay in this space, because obviously it's kind of a unique project with unique requirements, and if I'm moving into a regular house, there's probably not going to be a great space for Tuco Flyer. But yeah, that I couldn't just use that as a motivation to stay here any longer. That was kind of done. Couldn't do that anymore. So yeah, the other winch is currently down over there. Oh, how much can I zoom on this new camera? Is this on autofocus? Still not quite used to how to switch this car between auto and manual focus. Anyway, over there, just lock down the tripod. Yeah, the other winch. You can see the spot where it's normally mounted. Yeah, anyway. There's a lot of stuff that I could be doing, but really I need to be focusing on tying up loose ends and packing for the next, so just the schedule here. I actually, assuming everything goes to plan, should be able to actually move to this new place early January. Well, starting early January, I'll basically have the month of January to do the move, so hopefully early on I'll be able to move the bulk of the stuff, and then kind of later on I'll be moving the servers, and somewhere in there I'll be moving me and the cat. But where is the cat? He stopped pestering me, which is probably good. Yeah, and then I'm, of course, boxing up tons of junk. And then there's this thing, which is still here. I know I've been saying for a while that I was going to take it apart, like destroy it in some manner, take it apart, reuse the parts for something else. But I think I just sold it. So instead, I need to rebuild the shipping crate for it, which I had already taken apart. Which, it's a little annoying because I just had a shipping crate, which would have been useful, but the shipping crate kind of sucked, so it'll be an opportunity to make a new one. This time I have big cardboard boxes that are the right size, so I can at least put that bottom part. I need to clean it and just do a once over, make sure there's nothing I need to fix before I actually pack it up. But yeah, it's an old art project that I was planning on. Like, I have personally mixed feelings about it because, like, personally it feels like kind of a stressful failure, but I know some other people like it, and apparently I sold it to someone who doesn't have a emotional attachment to it the way I do, or at least doesn't have negative feelings about it. So yeah, I need to actually make it shippable again. So yeah, I got an assortment of boxes mostly for dealing with the rack mount gear, but it'll be useful for that also. I also need to pack up the 3D printers. But yeah, first of all, I need to deal with my desk. Well, I don't know where Tuco is, but I guess he's leaving us alone for the moment. I also don't know if anybody is going to find these, I don't know, kind of unfocused, my place is more of a mess than usual, kind of trying to just like quietly co-work streams to be good, but I don't know, let me know what you think. I mostly, I told folks I would do some more streams before I completely packed up the streaming gear. Yeah, I did at least partially pack up my editing desk, so I took a lot of the hardware that I had on that desk down. Oh, it's behind the art thing. But I'm still trying to do some experiments to see how far my, kind of everything over Cat6 cable approach will get me. If I can actually make the studio fanless, have monitors and stuff in there, and then have all the equipment somewhere else. Somewhere nearby, but somewhere noise isolated. I think I put it in autofocus, but I don't actually know this camera well enough to know for sure. I got this camera pretty recently and then haven't actually been doing much filming because I've been dealing with like housing and editing and just being depressed. Looks like we have 20-something people watching. Hello, everybody. Yeah, let me know if the video is skipping at all. It seems like it's relatively okay here, but it's really hard to tell. There's just a lot going on right now. So the computer that does the stream transcoding is also running some H.265 transcodes, and then the computer that I'm running the stream on is also running this thing, which is my motion-sensitive time compression tool, which itself also includes 2 copies of FFmpeg running in the background, and then itself is running just tons of mostly optical flow on the GPU. And then there's another copy of that, and another copy. Oh, and there's actually 4 of them total. So yeah, kind of just filled up my GPU RAM with that. So this thing's just been maxing out the CPU for a while. Oh, here's Tuco again. Yeah, the HDMI output on this camera and the autofocus, I mean, everything about this camera is much nicer for the purposes that I'm using it for than my other camera. I still have the other camera. I haven't sold it or anything. I might try to sell it. I might just use it as like a B camera. Mostly, I don't know, everybody, I think their first impression when I show them pictures of this space or when I invite them over here, the first impressions are usually, oh, that looks so cool, whatever. There's all this natural light and high ceilings and whatever. But it's just been really difficult to only have one space for everything. Like, I just don't have separation between cat and server and filming and bedroom and anything really. So, and like, I don't have a lot of the, like, I don't have a dining room. It'd be cool to have a dining room. I don't have like heat. Oh gosh. And Tuco is also really good at just following me around, and he wants to get into whatever I'm doing, so there's a lot of stuff that he will mostly leave alone that he'll just immediately get into as soon as I'm sitting here. Anyway, I think right now he just wants to play fetch some more. I'm just gonna do that and try to be quieter. Can I do... boxes in the way. I do have a camera that's specifically built for this purpose. Let's try that out. Oh gosh, I'm not going to run the computer vision though because I don't have nearly enough CPU for that. I think I've got enough spare CPU for at least the controller. Oh gosh. Oh, comes to life. That's right. Fuzzo. Keyboard focus. Now where did Tuco go? Oh, there he is. Oh gosh, it's really hard to drive in this mode. I've mentioned this before, but the regular mode that it's supposed to be in doesn't work because some of the winches are down right now. And so I'm driving it around in this manual mode that is really actually pretty frustrating. Hey, Tuk Tuk. Well, I'm glad all those background jobs on this computer are completely messing up the video. Oh yeah, I appreciate the congratulations for selling the art. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm probably gonna always have kind of bad feelings about it because it feels like, it's like not really what I wanted it to be. It feels like this kind of failure in some ways, but if there's someone else who wants it and I can get it out of the space and not take it apart myself, that seems like probably the best possible outcome. And I don't even have to like ship it that far. They're gonna come pick it up in a truck, so that'll be nice. I just have to make it movable again. So, which is not trivial, but is, not the worst job, I guess. Yeah, it's still hanging kind of precariously on these 3 light stands, which is kind of terrible. So I think the first thing I need to do is, well, the first thing might be to build some kind of base for the crate. The last crate that I had, I didn't build it myself. I had some help from a couple of friends while I was putting the kind of frantic finishing moves on the main art piece. They were helping me by building the shipping crate. So it was great. But I think after, like, with some hindsight, like, I think I might build something slightly differently. And like start out with a wheeled base and maybe use some of this kind of foam padding that I got mostly to ship server parts for this move, but it seems like that might work for this too. I'm going to have to stop apologizing for rambling too, or I'm going to be doing that this entire stream. Oh, I had a little cat scratcher pad over there, which I already put somewhere else, but maybe I should bring it back to him. Oh, Tuco. He's a very distracting roommate. That's part of why I have these. Yeah, I thought you'd like that. Do you want to hang out? Oh man, I'm totally gonna use that expanding foam stuff that I got to pack the mill. Seems like it's really good for stuff that's awkwardly shaped and fragile and heavy. Can I move any of that, I wonder? Oh gosh, not that one. How do I drive my robot? Gosh, maybe that winch is not operating for some reason. Yeah, because that winch is running as I expect. Oh, you know what? I think I accidentally unplugged that winch while I was moving stuff around upstairs. I'll be right back. That's what I get for using manual mode. I can't even tell if the winches are unplugged. Oh. Is that still not online? Well, so this actually brings me back to the problem that I keep facing when I want to clean up my desk is, do I fix the winches or do I just pack up the mess and leave them for a future something? Because my main goal at this point is really to move out of this place and set up a studio in my new place. But I mean, I also still have basically the rest of this month and, you know, whatever of January I'm not spending moving to do Tuco Flyer stuff if I want to. Gosh, those fans are loud. Just opening the web interface for the robot. Oh wait, actually there's a QR code here for a reason. I can just easily open it on my phone. That would be cool. Tuco's still wandering around this pile of wires and making me really nervous. actually have this configured on the right port. Oh, Tuco, you're... Oh gosh. Yeah, it's gonna be so nice to have a studio that I can shut my cat out of when I need to. Because he just gets into everything and makes me so nervous every time I do this lately. Oh, Tuco. Oh my gosh. I don't think this computer has enough free CPU to run the web interface right now. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'd bump... Oh, Tuco, geez, Tuco's just chewing on the knob for my analog oscope over here. Ah, money. Oh, I just wanted to move the camera, but I need the web interface to see why the winch wasn't operating. And now I'm dealing with problems related to that. And Tuco's back in frame. Gosh, I don't know what to do about that. I mean, I have to cover all the knobs with duct tape. Oh gosh, Tuco. Oh. He was just chewing on some wires that hadn't been a problem in a while. And apparently either I moved something that exposed them or he just took an interest in them or something. But oh, now he's chewing on wires and knobs that usually he doesn't. And oh, gosh. What port is this even on? In which I port scan everything. Where did you put the bolt this time? Okay, much better for my auditory sensitivity to wear the completely noise-blocking headphones rather than the monitor headphones for the stream. anybody else wants the same experience, there's a handy mute button. What port did I put my own server on? Ah. Chico, is this what you want? Oh gosh, maybe I should just do the thing where I listen to like relaxing rainfall noises in the headphones, just like for myself, so that I'm relaxed enough to stream everything else that's going on. Wow. Chico, are you gonna tell me what this is set up to do? I have to read the config file. It's probably better than asking my cat. Wow. There's a port number somewhere in this giant YAML file. Seems like it's trying to run on port 80 but failing. Oh, Tuco, you're just down here under the desk. Oh, it works. Yay. Maybe I experimented with putting that on port 80 but didn't actually test it. There's probably some... This is not even a Linux system, this is Windows, but maybe Windows also you need to be a system or something. Maybe it's a firewall rule thing, I don't know. but now it even matches the port in the QR code, so the user interface works on my phone again, and I can maybe debug the robot. Tuco, are you looking for USB cables to eat still? Buddy. Does my firewall not allow this from the Wi-Fi? That would be weird. Oh, too. Oh, don't you eat that. Don't you eat that. Don't want to just jam all of that into completely disorganized boxes, but I also don't want Tuco to eat it all. Okay, maybe I can't connect it from my phone, and that's fine. It seems to be working from this browser. Tuco, gosh, you're just looking for cables to chew on, and the last thing I want me to chew on is the power cord for a soldering iron. Jeez. Oh my gosh, this cat. Yeah, so I have those split loom covers which mostly do a good job of keeping Tuco away from the wires. It's just that I don't have them on 100% of the wires in my life, and Tuco always seems to manage to find the stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. And it's always at moments like this when I'm already overwhelmed and trying to deal with other stuff, and Tuco is just following me around and getting into whatever I'm getting into. And I was trying to just have a chill stream where I take care of the mess on my desk. Yeah, I know I haven't done a lot of streams lately. I've just been struggling to deal with all of the objects in my life, and usually when I'm trying to accomplish something, I can't deal with Tuco and his demands to have constant attention, and when I don't give him constant attention, he just constantly finds something to chew up or dangerously climb on or something. And it's just one of the reasons I can't deal with living in this space with him any longer. It looks great, impresses all the Twitter peeps, but it really doesn't work for me. Tuco. I'm trying to control the camera still so that I can just have him on camera while I'm doing other things. But this computer is really, really slow right now because it's running all these other things. Okay, Winch 0 is, I think that's the one on the desk right now. Winch 1 is working. Winch 2 is down. Winch 3 is the one that I thought I just turned on, but I'm not seeing any data from it. Tuco! winch and it seems to be operating. Yeah, having a way to keep Tuco in different rooms occasionally. I mean, I love Tuco, but this living space has just been really, really hard. Anyway, yeah, I need to reassemble this winch, I guess, before I pack up the tools that I need to do that. Oh, this UI is just... It's like spending all of its available CPU cycles rendering frames, I guess. The scroll bar gets none of it. Whatever. I gave Tuco some food. He's probably in the kitchen eating that. Oh yeah, I can run that winch now. Oh yeah. Get right in there with this camera. Oh yeah, there's some easy entropy reduction to do also, actually. Take some of these other objects off my desk. Yeah, I mean, I told folks I would do some more of these streams before completely packing up, but it really does feel kind of like, I don't know, like I don't know really know why I'm here. A lot of the time, like it feels like, well, folks show up for the projects, and I'm not doing the project right now. I'm trying to do something. I mean, personally, I'm doing some things like moving and trying to deal with a cat with no boundaries, and apparently a lot more auditory sensitivity than I ever knew I had before meeting this cat. And then with these video projects, I'm trying to do something that feels like a more worthwhile goal than just project show and tell, which is kind of hard to talk to folks about who are mostly excited about the project show and tell. I think I already have a bin for the Siftio stuff, but I'll just find that one later and combine them. Siftio and Joy's Cube. Oh, shit, I need the static back of that base. This'll do. What is tube get into? Oh, is that the touch connector? That's the LCD. Little screws. Sorry. Oh. This is the rubber foot that's supposed to go on there now. Sorry. Girl, what are you looking? Such a weird question. Someone's asking, how do you clean a cat's paw from dirt if the cat's afraid of water? I mean, you can clean cats with water if you need to. Like, some cats need to be bathed regularly because of the way their skin, I don't know. I'm not an expert in it, but I think there are some cats like that. And like, if your cat gets into something dirty, you can like wash them like you'd wash a dog. It's just they don't tend to like water. But normally the cat will just, lick themselves clean, and that works pretty well. Alright, so I think the rest of these parts mostly either go with the mill or with the winch. And I can pack up the mill later, it's not taking up that much space. I've got these extra gears that I 3D printed with shapeways out of nylon to try to fix some of the other motors. But I think for the moment I'm going to put these with the spare Tuco Flyer parts. We're down to 1 out of 2 studio lights. Wasn't a spark. Light goes. Yeah, so I know I said this already, but I think the spot we left this was right after epoxying the captive nuts back into the motor mount. This overhead Tuco Flyer thing is actually not too bad. I'd like to get this on the CAD. I guess until then we can use the new camera for this. It's nice to see a bunch of folks stopping by who haven't been here in a while. Yeah, I know I haven't been doing the same kind of regular streams lately. Not so much for lack of desire to be doing that general kind of thing, but I guess a combination of factors. Been trying to deal with where I'm going to live for a bunch of this year. Pretty much ever since my roommate moved out earlier this year, I've been kind of like, first I was kind of freaking out about like, oh, what do I do to stay in this place? Do I stay in this place? Where else do I go? Where else could I go? And then all that winded me up looking for housing in a different but sort of nearby city. And so that's what I'm doing now is I'm in the process of buying a house, which I plan to move into in January. And yeah, it should be nice. I mean, this place, I wanted to make it work. It was sort of my attempt at remaining in the Bay Area for a while longer and doing things for a Bay Area audience, but I just didn't have the motivation to do that after a while. I went down a few of the roads and it seemed like they didn't really go somewhere I wanted to be. And that was just, after a while, really depressing. And so, I just felt like it was time to get out of here. And without the roommate, even with all the generous support that I get from my patrons, without having a roommate paying some of the rent, it was just really not something I could do to stay here. It was too expensive. I mean, I could go back to trying to, work tech jobs that would pay the giant Bay Area rents, but I'm just so burned out on that. I feel like I've done several cycles of like trying to go back to that and then leaving again, and I just don't think I can keep bouncing into that. So, trying to go somewhere where I can just have a much lower cost of living but still be in a city because I don't want to be a totally isolated person out in the middle of nowhere because I don't think that would be good for my mental health either. So I just want to be like the weird cat lady who lives in not quite, but almost downtown in an actual city somewhere. I think that would be nice. I don't want to live in the suburbs. I don't want to be isolated, but I want to have some space to actually have a shop. And so I'm trying to find a space that hits that little sweet spot, you know. And I think I've done it. I think I found a spot that's going to be great. Trying not to get my hopes up too much before the ink is actually dry, but you know, it seems like it's going to work pretty well. In the meantime, I feel like I've been mostly preoccupied by like moving and planning related stuff, but I've been trying to actually do some video work. I don't know, I kind of gave up on making any progress on editing before I move really, but I wanted to at least do a little bit more streaming and to definitely be working on like planning and writing related to upcoming video projects, because that's really where I need. I mean, it's going to be really nice to actually have a quiet spot to record voiceovers finally. That's been really frustrating, but yeah, the writing is really the bottleneck. I guess I've got a couple of questions. Has the move been sorted? I mean, kind of. I still need to make somewhat more concrete plans to actually do the transportation, but I think I mostly have time to do that in January, and I can do it in a couple of stages, and I might have some help from friends, and I might be able to hire some movers, and so it doesn't seem like it'll be too bad. Right now I'm mostly just trying to pack stuff up because that feels like reducing the overall level of chaos in this space is necessary before I move. Last time I moved, I didn't really do that properly, and that was kind of a huge little disaster. This thing that I'm working on is one of the Tuco Flyer winches. And so I have weird feelings about that because I'm in the process of moving, and Tuco Flyer is not obviously useful in the new space that I'm moving into. So it's possible that, you know, I just declare this the end of the Tuco Flyer project and either repurpose it or something. And I can imagine a few different ways of doing that. Like, I think I already started a little notepad about that. There's like various ways I could use it in my kind of living space or studio space or even outdoors. Some of those purposes might still involve my cat. Some of them might just be kind of generic camera things. But yeah, it does seem like, you know, however things go, this is the end of Tuco Flyer as it currently exists, being in this space and being for the purposes of hanging out with Tuco while I stream. It seems like a good time to have kind of post-mortem feelings about that, like, oh, what worked and what didn't, what can I talk about, what stories can I share, that kind of thing. And yeah, I have a bunch of those feels. I mean, there's a bunch to talk about with the mechanical design of the winches. There's stuff that I liked about them, stuff that I didn't like. I feel like the highest order bits there, as it were, the things that kind of sway me the most in terms of how I feel about the ultimate success or failure or like future direction of this project is just more like more just my feelings about how this project and my cat and the streams all interacted with each other. Because I was really hoping that it would be something that helps me include Tuco more in something that I was already doing. But I really just kind of ran up against this problem where Tuco was demanding attention, and I didn't want to like push Tuco away for the purposes of doing this thing, which was supposedly so that he and I can have more time together. Like, that didn't seem genuine. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it might be one of those kinds of things that like this particular physical object might, with a somewhat different context for Tuco and I and our relationship around that, might be able to serve that purpose better. But as it was, like, there's just no way to enforce boundaries. And like this idea that there's just this one big space, which is kind of studio and cat hangout and my personal living space, and that Tuco can just hang out anywhere, and the camera can follow him anywhere, and I'll just be working somewhere, and then Tuco and the camera are just independently doing their own thing. Like that was never really how it worked out, because Tuco was always like either following me around to some extent, or doing something that the camera couldn't hope to follow him to do. So, I mean, maybe if the camera was like more of a moving thing that could follow him like under stuff and upstairs and whatever, that would work, but then that would be invasive in a different way and would probably just turn into something that Tuco would end up playing with or would be scared of or something. It'd be more of like the cat and Roomba kind of thing than the like cat Skycam kind of thing. I wonder where he is. Talking about him, he's probably just like sitting close by somewhere. I don't know. If he's not bothering me, maybe I can try reassembling the winch. Do I have anything else I'm working on at the moment? People love asking me that, and no, I mean, moving and trying to deal with this giant mess and like trying to have video projects and like just having my own personal life be constantly a disaster, like that's mostly what I'm doing. Sorry, I don't have anything more impressive. Literally just ready for the spool to go back in. There's a question about what camera the Tuco Flyer uses and how heavy it is. Yeah, it's a small gimbal that's meant for quadcopters that I did a bunch of modification on, and the whole thing is pretty light. I think the entire flying portion, like the camera robot part of it, is something like 1.2 kilograms or something like that. Tation 240 is wondering if I've ever considered making Tuco Flyer follow me around instead. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty easy to do. You can just like change one variable in the config file and it'll follow me around. It's just that was also like, I mean, it was useful to the extent that it was like a auxiliary camera that I can position. But like, I don't know, that worked. Like that part of the project worked fine. I had a remote control camera that I could stream that did 1080p 30 frame video, and that worked fine. But like the thing where I was constantly streaming Tuco and his own stuff, like that just wasn't really practical because Tuco's interaction with his environment is just so complicated. Oh yeah, 3D printing, soldering. Yeah, I mean, part of the problem with that is like, for that to actually work in this particular space, I would have to have something that could go down the hall into the closet, and that's like outside the sort of roughly cube-shaped volume where this camera is supposed to be operating. And for the closet, like that's a completely different space. It's this like tiny, separate space that doesn't have room for like the camera to back up and get a wide view. Like you have to have these different camera setups, different lenses, and I think that's just one of those cases where it works out way better to have multiple cameras than to have one camera that can move. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've been struggling with how do I have projects that are meaningful and concentrate on those projects, and also take good care of my cat and concentrate on my projects while my cat wants my attention, and like be a human and be an adult and like be a good human and be good at adulting. And like that stuff has been a huge struggle for like really my whole life, but especially these past couple of years. And so, I mean, I just haven't really focused on improving that situation too much, and moving is part of what I need right now for that. But it doesn't mean I have a great answer for these questions about like, oh, what are you doing now? Like, part of why I hate parties, like people are just wanting to know like, oh, what are you working on? What are your cool projects? Like, did you do anything fun over the weekend? You know, what are you doing for the holidays? No, just no for all of that. That's not, none of that is applicable. Bye. Yeah, so that's kind of just how I'm feeling about that right now. Oh gosh. And this winch definitely was not optimized to be sensible to take apart and put back together. Okay. I think that roller's fine. I should just... If I need to do anything with the other rollers, this is the time to do it. Gosh, this long roller is always a little bit stiff. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's the bearings. I think there's just thick grease in those bearings. Okay. Should I test this motor before I reassemble? This is a brand new motor, right? Like, if this was not a new motor, the leads or the wires would not be so long, because I usually trim them a little bit. Pretty sure I tested this last time, but let's give this another twirl. Power supply fan noise won't even be a big deal with all the server fan noise. Over a kilogram is too heavy. Sorry. Jeez. Didn't make it light enough for the ultra lightweight camera competition. And most of that's the metal in the gimbal, and I wanted a good gimbal. Yeah, I forget the exact weight, but I'm pretty sure I put that in GitHub if you actually care. Seems pretty okay. Are you asking me to do a blog post? What do you really mean by write up? Should I do a hack-a-day article? What do the kids actually read these days? know I'm not getting great video of this reassembly, and I don't extremely care. I'm doing this stream mostly to do a stream, not to get video of today. Oh, seriously? Okay, I skipped a step. Apparently I left some epoxy mounds that need to be taken down. Yeah, these little bumps are interfering with the, whatever you call this, the spool flange or something. Oh yeah, when you say write it up, you really mean a video, not a blog. And it's just a simple matter of video editing, really. It's not like, that's all. And like, clearly this winch has plenty of design problems. Like, the winch motors keep failing, obviously. We could talk about the problems. I don't know that I care to do that right this moment. I think I'd rather just be snarky at everyone who wants to backseat design this thing. Oh, that's a good question. What do I like about the winch design? We can actually think about the positives a bit. Yeah, I like the wall mount. I like how small and self-contained they are. I like the network communication, where you can just stick them on Ethernet together, and the motion control algorithm talks to them all synchronously. Yeah, I like how they're a small self-contained unit that is easy to use around pets and nosy guests and anybody else who didn't necessarily read a safety training manual before operating with the device. I like the force sensor a lot. Having the real-time force feedback from the load cell has been, like, I put it in there as kind of a weird experiment, but it's actually been super useful, so I like that a lot. Let's see, what else is good? I kind of do like the overall form factor, where it has a horizontally mounted spool, and then, kind of like just the overall shape, where it has the spool and then a pulley system and then a load sensor at the top. I think that overall design is pretty good. I would just do the drive differently. I'd have a beefy brushless motor on that capstan doing the final drive. I'd have it wrapped around the capstan a couple times. And then I'd have a much smaller motor just to move the main spool to take it up and let it out at the right time. Yeah, I mean, the force sensor is great. I think there's a lot more that I wanted to do with it on the software side if I'd gotten further in developing the software, but even to the point where the software it was already really useful for just establishing bounds. So, like, I could limit the robot to the edges of the room pretty effectively just using that force sensor, and that was already nice. I'm just trimming off this awful epoxy mound. The part where you can't really take off a lot of these pieces easily once you've assembled them is a pain. Like the wiring, there's a lot of stuff that routes through the enclosure and you can't easily get the connectors off. And then of course the gear is the biggest one. That's better. that's no longer interfering. Yeah. So that's attached. A lot of yellowing on that 3D printed gear. Oh, should not put too much force on that. That's the end of the strain gauge. One of the more delicate parts. I mean, this whole thing's actually pretty beefy. Like, it's funny, like, of course I was worried about the 3D printed parts failing, and so a lot of the 3D printed parts in this whole project have redundancy. So like the 3D printed pulleys, if the 3D print parts fail, the cord that hangs the pulley will actually catch the cord that runs through the pulley. So there's some redundancy there. And here, it's not completely redundant. Like if all the 3D printed parts dissolved, like it would still fall apart, but it really doesn't rely on the layer strength in the prints at all. Like everything that would have relied on the 3D print layer strength is instead being held together by bolts. And I think that part's worked out pretty well. And I was also, of course, worried about the 3D printed gears, but the 3D printed gears have been great. Like, I haven't had any problems with those. Oh, did I take these entirely out? Ah, oh, here they are. Yeah, I think these are M8. Oh yeah, this is the first Winch. They'll have their IP address on their sticker. 10.32.0.10. The Winches get their own network. They're not just like on the regular LAN. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Schmolz points out that they've had bad luck with doing direct drive brushless, and so belt drive might be better. Yeah, that's a good point. I think a belt drive would actually be the way I'd go. Yeah, belt to the capstan, and then I would also need a separate brake, since right now I'm relying on the worm gear to do the braking, which is also probably not so great for the worm gear being the weak link in the whole system. I mean, I have like active braking effectively in the control loop, but if it loses power or the control loop fails or whatever, then the worm gear will still actually hold the load of the camera. But yeah, brushless certainly would not do that, so I need an electromechanical brake probably. So now you've just got a more complicated system. Instead of just a single motor, you've got 2 motors and an electromechanical brake. But I think it would be worthwhile. I think this design is just really limited by the way it has to wind the spool under tension with that one motor. I think is a real weak point. It leads to, it really means that you can't do really smooth motion. So I feel like one thing I would want to use a robot like this for is doing really long, slow camera pans and stuff like that, like time lapses with the camera. And I think to do that you would need a few changes probably. I mean, you would need no wobbling in the cords first of all. So you'd either need high tension or just like something that's intrinsically stable and doesn't move much, doesn't have wind. I don't like high tension because that makes it harder for the system to be safe, especially around pets and guests and whatever. So I like something that can deal with low tension but then keep the camera stable, either just by having very stable drive or a good gimbal or some combination of that. So I could imagine something that's maybe like a WinchBot version 2.0 that has brushless drive on the capstan for a really smooth drive under load. The same kind of feedback, the same kind of small enclosure, integrated power network, everything else. I think that would be cool. And it might be a good photography thing where you could just like bring it to a site, set up a couple of them in the corners of a room or in an outdoor space or something, and then do some kind of long camera shoot of some sort. I was also wondering if I could break by shorting brushless DC's phases. Yeah, I mean that'll get you part of the way there. Like if you look at a lot of electrical vehicles, that's one part of a multi-part braking system, which is like you do that both for redundancy and for efficiency. Like you can certainly do some of your braking through the motor, but you can't rely on that entirely, and you certainly can't lock the motor that way, since it doesn't brake very well at low speeds. It'll do a good job at just burning off tons of energy if you're going fast, though. That was another problem with this design, is I did not allow for just like a separate way to just dump energy into something. So if this design slows down too fast, it'll actually overvolt the power supply, which is not ideal. So the software just limits how fast it slows down, and for the most part, it can dump enough energy into this giant capacitor and just store it there and not overvolt the power supply. But if I was redesigning this, that was certainly something that I would change, since that was, good enough for a prototype, but certainly not a good solution by any means. Okay, those are nice and snug. Okay, both the rollers are okay. Oh, what's next in this terrible puzzle? Make sure all the cables go in the right spot. This just needs to be out of the way. Oh gosh. Thomas's horror story of the motor driver with a tiny capacitor and no braking resistance. Yeah, this one at least I have a big capacitor. But yeah, if you don't have either of those, that's a bad story. And the capacitor only works for so long. It's a limited solution. I mean, I guess the resistor eventually heats up, but usually have more time. Okay, so I could bolt that on if I could hold all of this in place. I think I have to put the other side on first. Oh, maybe I can do it this way. That's the ticket. There are some delicate parts when this is disassembled too. Like there's just a DC converter sticking up over here, which is also not ideal. One of the many parts of this design, which I would describe as not ideal. He's quiet. It's worrying me now. Is this the right screw? I have the right number of them. I could check the CAD. I was pretty good about keeping the CAD up to date with the fasteners I was using. I think these are the right ones though. Also kind of an awkward spot for screws. Yep, there's the train. Yeah, I'll be trading the train noise for other infrastructure. I'm pretty close to a highway. But given that I'll have a less tenuous relationship with the space, I can actually soundproof my recording area. Like, this is just a really difficult space to do much of anything with. It's a giant concrete box, just a big monolithic concrete space. And to do pretty much anything with it, you either need to make a giant thing or you need to make a room inside the room. And I know it's possible to make a room inside a room here, but also because it's a big commercial building, I would have to install sprinklers. It would be a big undertaking, and the entire time I've lived here, it's all felt tenuous because it's so expensive, and I didn't really have a long-term plan for how I was going to pay for it. So there's that. But yeah, buying a house, super weird. I feel like a fake millennial now. But like, my brother bought a house. I think my brother is actually on his second house. Like, I think he bought a house with his fiancée, and then that relationship kind of fell apart, and it was terrible. And then he ended up with this house that he actually didn't want at all, that his now ex-mother-in-law was living in. And then I think after all that, he ended up buying another house, like after he got married. It's super weird, but I don't really talk. And I wish I was thinking about him less, but it's the holidays. It's hard to completely not think about family on the holidays as much as I'd like to not think about them. Yeah, that's been a bummer. I'd like to not be thinking about them at all. But there you go. It's December. So that's happening. I should let out a bit more cord, because if you run this without the sensor threaded, it is not a fun experience. So it's nice just to thread the whole thing, including the sensor. I've also determined that a lot of my crankiness lately has been because it's cold here, and the giant cardboard or giant concrete box has no insulation, of course. But I got a sweater, and the sweater's been helping. I know, it's like little things like clothing. It's pretty great though. And I set Tuco's heating pad up again, so he's got a warm spot too. Well, maybe that's where he is right now. It's gotten a little later. Okay, I think I threaded that right. The giant bolts are in. The other half of, what do they call this blue thing? This thing that holds all the electronics. I expect there's going to be a lot of stuff to deal with in the house after moving and during moving, and I just expect the whole thing to be a lot. Like, it's had a bunch of renovation recently. It's a pretty old house, but the previous owner just did a bunch of renovation on it, which seems good. The electrical system still seems kind of bad, so I might have to redo a bunch of that, but that's not the worst. Like, it's an opportunity to kind of have my way with it to some extent. Yeah, it's It's like an 80-year-old house with a mixture of components of various ages. So I think at the very least I need to figure out how to have a good solid location for the equipment and deliver that location with good electricity. And I might have to just like reground a bunch of the outlets elsewhere in the house too. This unnecessary O-ring sucks. Yeah, it seems like at least the electrical service coming into the building is pretty modern. So the breaker panel itself is good, which is nice. It's just some of the in-wall wiring is like old school knob and tube, and a lot of it's ungrounded. So I think at least I'd want to run some like fresh circuits with fresh grounds to some of the locations. Oh yeah, maybe Robert and I will be in a similar boat. Yeah, I think most of the outlets in this house are floating grounds, so that's going to keep me busy and or my electrician. Oh, which screws go in next? I think these. Gosh. It would be satisfying if reassembling this winch would get Tucoflyer running again, but there's another winch with a broken gear, and so yeah, I don't know how much I feel like dealing with that. Like we're at a kind of a crossroads there where I could just say, well, Tucoflyer in this iteration is done, or I could say I want to get it working again one more time before I move at least, and we take apart that winch, and I don't think I have any more completely working motors. I think this was my last spare, but I have those 3D prints from Shapeways. So we could try that and see how long that lasts. We could also just try the 3D printed gear separately, like load test it without putting it in a winch, which might be easier. Oh, this is so hard. It's an awkward angle, so you have to put these in with a ball driver. And there's a giant magnet right near, because it's next to the motor. Only the best screw locations for our hardware. Knob and tube wiring is still legal. I mean, it isn't legal to install new knob and tube, but it was legal when it was installed. Conduit to just bring. Yeah, I don't think I need to run conduit on the outside of the building, thankfully. I mean, I could if I wanted to, but yeah, it's got a crawl space with what seems like pretty good access to just run. So I have the dubious benefit of having an uninsulated crawl space in the attic also, so I can at least run a bunch of wiring and then have it properly insulated. Okay, 6 screws holding those pieces in. Now I need to bolt the 2 halves to each other. Just make sure I haven't made another mistake. I think that's right. The e-stop button seems like it's back in there. This building does seem to have decent bathrooms, heating, and air conditioning, which I'm pretty excited about. Yeah, so I'm also just still trying to figure out where everything goes and, like, you know, where do I put the computers, where's the cat hangout, where's the human hangout, where's the recording space. I've got a lot of that figured out, I guess. But my first inclination was, oh, I should just have a really modest bedroom, have the really tiny space for myself, and then have the really big, there's like a larger bedroom would be great for a recording area. But then I was talking with one of my neighbors here who's good at cats. She and I talk about cat stuff a lot, and she seems to have a lot of experience at understanding cats' needs. And she was saying that it might be better to have like a very well-defined, relatively contained space, which kind of can belong to Tuco right away, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when Tuco and I lived in the place we lived in before this, I had a bedroom, and you know, he and I lived in that bedroom together, and he was allowed out of the bedroom, and he would hang out in the rest of the space, but that was kind of like our home. And so now, yeah, she has me thinking more in terms of that, like, how do I have a bedroom, which is, so the bedroom is probably going to be more of like cat hangout, human hangout, clothing. I can also have like a proper space for like getting dressed and having like costume and makeup if I want to do that for video. Like, I don't really have a proper space for that right now, so that would be really nice. And I can also just make that, you know, if Tuco is causing trouble elsewhere, or if Tuco needs to get away from like something hazardous or a complicated social situation or whatever, like he can always just go back to our bedroom and hang out there. So that seems nice. And I want to try to keep that equipment free if I can. There's part of me that wants to put an equipment rack in the bedroom just because it would get it out of the rest of the house, but it seems like mostly I want to keep that kind of cozy and have, I don't know, I'm not quite sure where all the equipment goes, but it seems like if I can have like a little, like, I think my imagination right now is that I build a little concrete, like a tiny concrete box in the corner of the garage, and then stick the 3D printers and racks and a small portable air conditioning unit in there. That seems like it might be awesome. I could do that in the corner of the garage, or possibly in like a lean-to shed. Just something that can be relatively near, but not necessarily even inside the house. So that's part of why I've been experimenting with just running everything over Twisted Pair. I'm trying to get all my video stuff running over. I mean, I guess I can keep using SDI, but I guess I don't want to be limited by the length of DisplayPort cables in terms of where I put my editing machine. So yeah, that seems to be working all right so far. I don't think I need to run USB 3 from the racks to my filming area. I think I can live without USB 3. If I'm doing any kind of, you know, if I'm importing footage or if I'm connecting like a storage device locally, I think for anything like that, I can just use a fanless single board computer that has USB 3 on it. So I think I've got one of the Orange Pis or something like that with USB 3, and I can set that up inside and have it in my nice fanless environment. I just don't want this noisy business happening every time I record video. Kind of tired of that. Oh, route cables. Sure. Gosh, I also designed this, like there are a bunch of improvements I would make to make this easier to assemble. I mean, just not having such crazy dependencies on everything would be nice, but it's also just way too easy to snag wires in plastic parts as you're closing joints. It's just little things like that. If I was designing this to be produced in any kind of quantity, that would be a huge improvement. Yeah, so here's another wire. What was that even doing? That's the LED wire. Yeah, so I think having a bedroom that's like mostly cat play haven with also a bed and desk and dressing area for me, I think that's what I'm going for. That room also is a little bit more private because it doesn't have a separate back door, whereas the room I'm thinking of using for a studio actually has its own back entrance, which is kind of cool. That would make it easier to, like, if I wanted to have studio guests that aren't necessarily like in my house, I could do that, but it seems like it'd be most useful for making it easy to go back and forth between the garage and the recording studio when I'm doing projects that have a garage component. So I'm pretty excited about that too. And I'm gonna have a place I can weld in. I'm excited about welding. I don't have a welder, but I can find a welder. I think I want to try to get a just like a pretty nice basic 110 volt TIG welder. I think I mostly plan on welding relatively small materials, so I don't think I need a ton of power. I guess I could run more 240 circuits, but it seems like a 110 volt welder would be a little more convenient. Gosh, this thing is so annoying. You just have to, like, really just pretty much completely strip it down to get to the gear that we just replaced. Oh, okay. This bracket goes on next. I think. Is DFM designed for manufacture or designed for masochism? I'm like, is the captive nut there? Because I'm about to pack up my M3 nuts. It's part of why I'm doing this now. The dependencies in packing up the shop are just overwhelming to me, especially in like trying to keep my promise to myself and to all of you that I would at least do some more streaming and not completely just only focus on the move, but just I might just have to at some point just worry about putting stuff in boxes and taking things apart. I'm gonna leave diode zone operating and move it in the shortest time period possible, but yeah, at some point I will just have to pack up all the equipment that I'm using right now to be streaming to you. One bolt short. There should be, I think, one more of these really long ones. It's entirely possible that Tuco and or myself displaced this bolt. Yeah, that was in one of the bins that I was about to pack up, so good to be doing that now. M3x35 stainless. All right, separation of the things that make dust and the things that make sparks. Yeah, I mean, I won't have a ton of separation, but I think my plan is to have the garage be basically like dirty but not on fire stuff, and then I'll have like a concrete pad in front of the garage that I can use for welding. I don't think I want to weld in the garage, but I'll have like a concrete pad in front of the garage, basically in like a backyard kind of area. So maybe I can't weld in the rain unless I put up a carport. And it'll be pretty hot in the summer, but yeah, I'm trying to both not set the garage on fire, but also like if I set the garage on fire, have that not set the house on fire. Those are my two goals. Not set anything on fire, but also if I set one thing on fire, let's keep the fire contained. Okay, so that's just all the sensors plugged in. The LEDs go to the enclosure. This goes to the motor driver, and I was just looping it around the front to maintain some of the extra motor wire slack so I don't have to trim it as close. Mounting bolts. Get exactly the right number of spare bolts to put the cover on, so that seems good. I think I'm gonna splice these wires. It's really hard to actually get to the proper solder joint under there, so I'm gonna splice them. Yeah, I'm gonna trim these a little bit. I totally forgot about the fan noise from the power supply with all the fan noise from the server rack. Okay, I need some solder. I haven't packed the solder yet, have I? Oh, packing. The soldering iron stuff is not where it usually is. I didn't think I already packed it, but maybe I did. Ah. I think I moved this stuff in a hurry because Tuco was getting into some stuff that was near it, so I just moved the whole pile to keep Tuco distracted. What's this? Yeah, detached garage. I'm excited about that. somewhere I own an actual wire stripper. Oh, I know I actually just came across my good wire stripper while I was looking for something else. But right at this moment, I don't think I care. I'm just going to use the side cutters. I haven't packed up my heat shrink. Yeah, wire strippers are great. I have some really nice automatic wire strippers too, which are just super useful for when I'm making a bunch of cables for something. Like I got them when I was doing an LED art project where I was making a bunch of little wires that were all like the same size. So I got these automatic wire strippers and a solder pot. I need to add some additional cooling on this camera too. Oh, but it's so good at the close-ups. So the other thing I'm going to do, I'm really looking forward to having more camera mounting options, because this thing where I'm always fighting with the camera arm, or in this case the tripod, is even worse. I can't use the arm right now because it's on the stand that I've got that Orbi art thing hung from. But yeah, I want to have that friction arm, I think, mounted from either the ceiling or the wall. That'll be really nice. And hopefully not this wobbly mess that I'm used to. The camera arm on the light stand is very wobbly. And the tripod is stable, but pretty easy to just always have that in the way. In the way, like, blocking the light. Yeah, I mean, the high ceilings and everything and the natural light is pretty impressive, but like a tiny, well-insulated recording studio that I can control the lighting in and has lots of mounting feels more practical at this point in my life. Pointy solder joints kind of maybe want a second layer of heat shrink too. This needs some zip ties. Gosh, this... I would also have more room for the wires to be double insulated, because like these are all just incoming AC wires. Everything here is single insulated. Anyway, other than my reservations about this entire design, I think this should basically be back in one piece and ready to test. Yeah, I'm less worried about the low ceilings given that I'm also going to have some outside space. So I'll be able to set up my hammock actually outdoors, which will be pretty cool, I think. I'm going to try to have a little cozy backyard space with some plants. Right. Well, this looks alright. I guess I need some wires and case. I was just weighing whether I want to try to run this with the case off. It seems like we might as well run it without the case on, just to see if there are any early problems. So I need to grab some wires. Go ahead and put the solder away before Tuco finds it. I don't know where Tuco was, but I put a treat out and I got his attention. Alright, so I got a power cable, look up some network cables. Alright, network. Spicy wire. Okay, I think I also, before I plug this in, I want to have the control panel visible. What are you doing, Tico? I don't know what that noise was. Stupid computer problem. I have the URL to the control panel on this machine that's extremely overloaded. I could open this on a different machine if I can get the URL over there. Now Tuco's joining me. Well, oh, you know what? I thought the web browser was hanging. I think it might be opening on a different monitor that I wasn't looking at. How does that theory check out? No. I think the web browser was actually hanging. Let's try Firefox. That's what I get for trying Chrome. I think everybody just wants to update right now. Good luck finding any CPU cycles for this update. Okay, cool. Did that work? Tuco's actually right here. Okay. So we want winch. So bots 1 and 3 are the ones that are currently working fine. 2 is disconnected because it broke a gear, and 0 is the one here in the table. So I'm going to plug this into the power strip over here. Stay ready to go. We've got a power light and some sensor data. Oh, Tuco, don't bite that, honey. Jeez, those are wires. I know how you feel about wires. Okay, sensors are fine. Can I get you camera view in addition to all this other stuff? Two goes right over there. That's better. Okay. So those are the sensors. The text is really small, or at least it is for me. It's, I guess, probably bigger for you. Force feedback on the top, velocity feedback, position feedback. So if I manually tweak this sensor, that moves the position feedback on the bottom. I think if I just click this joystick, it'll let me control the motor. Oh yeah. It's nice and smooth. Yeah. Let's put the cover on. That seems good so far. Okay. So there's the enclosure. Big old 3D printed thingo. Honey boy. He just wants to bite everything. Jeez. No. Put that in here. That's the broken rubber foot from my mill. Do something with that before, or as I pack that up to move it. I've also got a bunch of tooling that I need to pack properly. Yeah, I don't know how much of the house is going to be knob and tube. I just had a, an inspection that wasn't specifically an electrical inspection, but it was enough to say like, well, there's a mixture of all this. I mean, I don't know if there's any real conduit. There's like Romex, like the thick insulated kind of 3-wire stuff. Then there's a bunch of knob and tube. There's a bunch of like 2-conductor insulated stuff. There's some that's just like along the ground in the crawl space. So yeah, I'm gonna want to take closer stock of the electrical myself, and at least run a couple of like new solid circuits to wherever I'm running the rack of noisy, power-hungry stuff. Yeah, I've been encoding video lately, partially because I'm low on hard disk space, and it seems like I can save a bunch of space by using H.265 on all the things. But yeah, I'm also taking advantage of the low-cost electricity here. How does any of this work? There's a bunch of like weird, ugly yellowed epoxy on some of these bolts. I wonder how that happened. I wonder if it was the kind of epoxy I used, or if it mixed with some of the oil that was on the bolt. So that doesn't seem good. There we go. Feels snug around the wires here because some of the wires are in weird places. Oh, there's actually one that's being pinched. Yeah, that can't be there. That's better. That seems fine. Okay. 8 screws, and then this is done. Until the next time it breaks. Oh gosh, with Tuco on this, we should take advantage of, like, you don't need to see me put screws in. We should really just get this beautiful cat in full highest available definition. hest available D. A question about the crawl space and the attic. There's both. There's the crawl space is under the house and the attic is over. But yeah, they're both somewhat accessible. The crawl space is pretty small, but you can wiggle down under there and put in cable. And the attic, I think, is a bit bigger. It has access in a couple of the closets. It is really satisfying putting the case on the Tuco Flyer. Like, it's just like two giant 3D prints that fit together really well. I'm like, shouldn't hold that too capillarily before putting the other 4 screws in, but yeah. Yeah, I've been kind of nerding out on city codes a bit. I should read some more into that, but yeah, just like learning about the different zoning and learning about, I don't know, just reading through the building regulations and just, I don't know, like a lot of it's not applicable to me at all, but even just like understanding kind of the overall contours of how the city regulations look has been kind of enlightening. Test this now that it's together. Seems pretty together. And I should test the e-stop, but I mean, if it was running at all, the e-stop switch was at least passing current. I mean, I guess I could put this back on the actual wall. Running Tuco with 3 out of 4 winches isn't really much better than running it with 2 out of 4 winches, unfortunately. Well, the lights work. Alright, Tuco, let's zoom out. The e-stop reboot. So that light, like, that means that all the communication is working. So we've got force sensor. The flashing is like an error indicating that the force sensor's out of range. And then if I go back down here to the joystick, don't want to get this to slurp up the cord. That would be annoying. But yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty easy to put this back on the wall, so I mean, I could go ahead and do that, but yeah, that leaves us with one more broken winch. And I still feel like I'm at this crossroads where I could basically just put the entire project in a box at this point, like pack it up, or I could try to get it working again. I'm not really sure what to do with it. But Tuco's great. I'm still kind of surprised I can stream with all this stuff running in the background on this machine. It's pretty nice. Tuco does like paracord. Yeah, well, what do you think? I don't know if anybody else has an opinion about this. I could try to get the winches all four operating again, or I could just put this all up in a box and set it up somewhere else. But yeah, let me know. It's mostly just I mean, I'm enjoying the cleaner desk. That was the immediate goal of this. But yeah. Well, no reason not to put this back on the wall, I guess. It's actually pretty easy to install this winch. You know, I had a spare cord on that winch. I'm just gonna trade those out. I'll take the spare cord, move it to the pulley that has the broken winch so that I can bring the broken winch over here. But I don't know if I even want to take it apart. Maybe we'll just like look at it on the desk here. It's like a Pandora's box. I'm not sure if I want to open, but I guess I should actually make the chat large enough that I can see it. Seems like there might be some chats in there. Yeah. A couple of votes to pack it all up. Yeah. Well, we could try that. I mean, if I'm not worried about... So the reason I'm worried about having a spare cord on the pulleys is because I don't want to have to... Like, it makes it much easier to rethread the pulleys if I don't have to, like, reach something up there. If I can just pull the cord through. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem likely that we're going to want to just, like... You know, maybe it's a good time to try installing one of those nylon gears. Like, if that just works marvelously, then maybe we can go ahead and fix the other winch. If that, as I maybe kind of expect, is just going to be terrible, then maybe we don't bother. So let's look at that briefly. Maybe this flashing winch can hang out near Tuco. Should I put it back on the wall at least? Okay. So, what do we have? We've got some motors, some more motor. I only have 2 spare motors. That sounds right. And these are the weird 3D printed gears. Oh gosh, I don't want to lose Tuco. He's the best part of the frame. If only I had another camera that was just for Tuco. See, with a smaller room, I think I can accomplish a lot of this with those Tandberg pan tilt zoom cameras. So I could make maybe a different project of getting those set up and refurbished if necessary, and get them following my cat around the tiny studio space. But like, I think I also just need to really just understand how Tuco and I and the new space all interact a bit more. That's still kind of, I don't know, something I'm less sure about. Okay, I still have screwdrivers. These are going to be full of grease. I need some cleaning supplies. Okay. What am I doing here? I don't think we even need paper towels. We have Kim wipes, which are like science paper towels. These are the prints that I got from the Shapeway factory. They look a lot like the ones that I 3D printed because it's the same file. I just wanted to see if their nylon process was strong enough. Let's go ahead and glove up. Does anyone else have good strategies for avoiding the depressing holidays? I feel like all the media that's around is all like, oh, togetherness, you know, putting up with your family and whatever, but like I'm at this point where I'm not even putting up with my family. I'm just like not even attempting to make contact with them, which is good, but it's also just like frustrating how, I don't know, it's like even the like chosen family of like your, you know, your friends getting together and celebrating together and all that feels pretty far away this year. There have been years in the past when that felt like something that I was enjoying, but this year that feels pretty distant. So I don't know. Just like I need a way to enjoy, or at least move through this season as a cranky loner in style. Oh, come on. Twitch and YouTube are extremely media. And I know a bunch of you are like Twitch gamer kids, but that's extremely not me. Like, I I like watching speedruns sometimes, but a lot of gamer culture kind of just spans from frustrating to boring for me. So, I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. I don't know why I'm taking both of these apart. And it seems like whatever I do to fix them, I should probably do to 2, just to have more attempts, but... Okay, so this is the one that has my attempt at a 3D printed gear. It's pretty chowdered up. We can take a closer look at that in a sec. You know, I should be recording some of this on the... I don't know if I'm going to need this footage, but I'm not actually recording on the 4K camera. Maybe I should be. At the very least, it could be interesting B-roll. Yeah, that should do. I mean, that'll do until the camera overheats. Yeah, I feel like my feelings about tech YouTube are not especially shiny right now either. Like, I just don't find myself like interested in or taking part in much or any of it really. Like a lot of the channels that I think a lot of folks would find familiar in the context of a tech YouTube are things that I kind of bounced off of. Like I was interested in them for a minute and then either had a bad experience with them or just got bored, and now I just don't find them interesting or don't want them anymore. And I don't really have a lot of, like there are a few channels, but it doesn't really feel like there is a tech YouTube community as a whole that I enjoy or feel like I'm part of. So I don't know. Okay, so this bottom one is the one that I modified. I think I put new lubricant on it and definitely a new gear. This top one is freshly broken. Original shmoo and terrible gear. Ugh. Yeah. They just break straight in half. It's right along this pin that holds it onto the axle. Shmooey. I need a trash bucket. Sorry. Oh, okay. I find this really frustrating and patronizing and annoying, but I don't know to what extent I want to actually have a discussion about it, so I'm just gonna say that anhedonia, or just like finding everything to be unmotivating, which I have plenty of experience with, is a very different thing from being burned out on tech, which I think is rooted in realizing that a lot of the stuff that you kind of assumed was interesting is actually not that interesting. So I'm gonna have to say that you sound a lot like younger version of me that I would want to like smack upside the head a little bit. I have to say, I feel like I'm burned out on a lot of this technical stuff, not because they are like I feel like it's not that they are less interesting than they used to be, but my tolerance for things which are technically promising but intrinsically boring is a lot lower. Yeah, younger, yeah. I would go back in time and deliver some stern messages to my younger self, or my, yeah, younger self, I guess. Younger. Ah. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I remember thinking was just absolutely normal, like nerd culture kind of stuff that now just feels really unhealthy. And it's not like I was weird in isolation. Like, I found a whole group of people that had compatible views. And it's also not true that like the whole like mainstream thing where nerds are uncool and we've got to like be social all the time, like that certainly wasn't good either. Like, the thing that I needed was like a way to explore, like the thing that I liked about tech was that it was like a little world of my own, you know? But that's the thing that I needed. It wasn't the like, oh, you're going to be the next Bill Gates bullshit. Like, that's just toxic, kind of propping oneself up and ignoring the consequences. Gosh, why is this gear so stuck? Yeah, totally. I'm right there with Alexis. Yeah, I think my younger self would have had a hard time listening. It would be that's maybe like one thing that's interesting in terms of like, well, how do I motivate myself to make good media? Is like, well, what media would have given my younger self the right kind of smack? You know, what would have motivated them to think outside of the right box, the right amount? I don't know how this was assembled. It feels like everything is just almost interfering. Gosh, none of this feels worth fixing. It's also stressful doing all this messy stuff, like in the same, like, my cat is right there. I don't want to get grease on my cat, right? Like, if I had a garage that my cat was not allowed in, I could do the greasy stuff in the garage. That seems like it would be much nicer. Okay, those are the same. Yay. Mushy. So it looks like the way this was made, it's got one piece that was turned. It's got a separate pin here, which I don't have a press that would get that out, but it seems like one could potentially press that pin out. I could maybe get that out with a hammer or something, but I don't, like I would have to, especially with my shop like partway packed here, I don't think I could get good work holding on that pin, so I don't want to mess with that pin. Similarly, this other side is a gear held in with a key. I forget whether I tried to get that key apart before. I don't think I need to get that key apart. But yeah, so the plastic was just molded around here. I think the way this was assembled is it just was a separately molded plastic piece that fit around this pretty tightly. It was like pressed on. It might have even been a compression fit, because I'm noticing now this shaft is a little tapered. And then they separately pressed a pin in. I think that whole process just weakened the gear a lot. So then my version of it, I made a little cavity in my gear to fit this pin, and then just epoxied around that cavity. So I'm gonna need to probably squish this gear with, oh, okay, so this is coming off. The gear, or the other gear with the key, is a much looser fit on this one. It's fine. Can I just take that entirely apart? I could try a punch to get it out. Yeah, I don't have that stuff handy, sorry. I don't live in a well-organized machine shop. I live in a mess of boxes. Okay, yeah, this one is much more stuck. Well, I don't have to fully clean this stuff off. I mean, on the other one, I cleaned off a bunch of this original lube because I was worried about it interacting with the 3D print, but I think that might have been unnecessary. So that's the output shaft, the bushing on the rear of the output shaft, and the large gear. I think that can mostly just stay in place. And then, I'm gonna have to squish this with vice grips probably, just get the gear apart. And it's all super messy, so I kind of want to clean at least the parts I'm gonna be epoxying before I do much else. So, kind of even just would leave this in a little cup of simple green or something. This is again something I would want to be doing in the garage and not right next to my cat. That's the gash in the original, or the 3D printed replacement that I made before. Well, yeah, I'm pretty tempted to just not even try this part until I have a garage. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll get a lathe at some point and I could try making stuff on a lathe. But I feel kind of like right now I should just put these parts in a bag and pack up the rest of Tuco Flyer. I could at least, I guess, see if the gear fits on here without cleaning it entirely. Just do a quick fit. I'll switch gloves. So I have 4 of these gears, which is probably overkill, but they were fairly cheap prints. Feels pretty strong for sintered nylon. Oh. Yeah, right, I'd love to have a lathe. I feel like I could theoretically have a lathe here. It's just, it would be a really big object in a shop that's already kind of not super well suited for power tools. But yeah, once I have a separate garage and recording studio, I could put some kind of small lathe in the garage probably. It would also be a ground floor concrete slab, which is a lot nicer than this like wobbly second floor concrete slab that I'm on right now. It would be really interesting to do a Tuco Flyer version 2 with access to a lathe. Okay. Does this even fit? So importantly, that key is, or the pin is off center also, which I've had to include in the design. Oh, is it not off center by a consistent amount? Yeah, what a surprise. The manufacturing tolerances on these original parts aren't amazing. It seems like I could maybe force it on, but it's the whole problem all over again. Ugh. Does that end fit? That end fits fine. The pin is just not quite aligned with my cutout. Ugh. Everything about this is just so bad. Like, the original design is bad. All of the hacks that I've tried to get around this problem are bad. And like, if I was really seriously trying to redesign the winches, I wouldn't even be using this motor or anything like it again. Yeah, it almost fits, but the pin is not quite, doesn't quite fit in that slot. It's a little long on this side, and it's like right up against the top side of that slot. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I put this stuff away for a while. Just bag up the remaining parts. Well, these motors are less messy if I at least close them rather than just bagging up greasy gears. So I'm tempted to try pressing this on, but I don't even know. Okay. I'm at least going to keep these shafts just like in bags separately so we can mess with them, but I want to assemble the rest of these gears. The rest of the... Do I want to put this on? I don't know why the key is so loose. It has me a little concerned. But sure, those can all stay together. And then I'll just put the bearings back on. I would zoom out, but I think I'm gonna get grease on my camera if I do that. I completely agree with Robert. The gear is a microcosm for tech burnout. Yes, I feel very much like that right now. So I have 3 working winches. It is possible to move in 3 dimensions. I could go back to having a triangular working volume. But it also is kind of seeming like it might just be a good time to pack up Tuco Flyer at this point. It's no longer a pile of parts on my desk. I at least have 3 working winches. Oh, Tuco looks so cozy. I should switch to him. He's more interesting than this gear. can put Tuco Flyer on its own motor. How morbid is that? Yeah, I'm just so mad that the weak link in this mechanical system turned out to be the stupid plastic gear on these ready-made motors. Like, I guess next time I do something like this, I will have different opinions about motors. But I should at least like load test stuff more, probably. I think I just didn't even think about this as the failure mode because I was so worried about completely different failure modes. The previous prototype, I think the main problem was the bearings, because I was trying to just direct drive the gearbox onto the spool. And so I think having separate bearings for everything was a big improvement here, but I did not really consider the gearbox as being the weak link. I was much more worried about the 3D printed gears. That'll all just hang out for later. Wow, you can see my desk again. Well, I think that's really all I had planned. I've got the Winch reassembled, had some semi-quiet, semi-co-working for a few hours. I should probably make some food. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to do in terms of setting expectations for streaming for the rest of this month. Because I feel like I've mostly just been overwhelmed by physical objects and moving and setting things up. But, I mean, I don't want to let that completely consume me. I would like to at least keep in touch with folks, but then keeping in touch with everyone is also its own kind of, like, overwhelming situation usually. So, I mean, if the physical objects were easy, if the social stuff was easy, if like any of that was just like an easy thing I could do to hang out, then that would be cool. But it feels like everything is just pretty uphill right now. Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. Jarrett's wondering about the status of that orb art thing. Eclipse is what it's called, but the title was kind of a reference to something that didn't really work out. Yeah, I was actually procrastinating on disassembling it, and during my procrastination, I might have sold it. So now I've got to build a crate for it again. So, yeah, what does my dependency tree for that look like? Well, I need floor space to build the crate, and I need wheels, and I need lumber, and I have, I think, all those things now except for the floor space. So I need to pack up some more stuff, especially the bins. part of why I needed to put this together is I needed to pack up the bins to make more space to build the crate for this art, but I also wanted to make sure that I wasn't packing up tools that I needed for projects that I'm doing before I finish the move. So this and the building of the crate and the actual move itself and the unpacking, I need to at least keep those tools out. So yeah, this was actually one of the things on my awful list of dependencies to get that art packed up. But now that this is packed up, or now that this is together at least, I can pack up the tools that I was worried about needing to finish assembling this, and then I can make some more space that I can use to build the crate to make the art shippable, which would be nice, and then I can get it out. I appreciate the thoughts that Sienna's comment that they just like to see me on the stream and that I shouldn't feel obligated. I mean, it's never going to be easy to be just around a whole bunch of internet strangers. That's just not in the cards, and so I appreciate the sentiment, but like I also just can't always just be around people, you know? I mean, maybe it's not like that for everyone, but and I know, you know, you don't expect things to be easy, right? I'm not only asking to do things that are easy, but I mean, it uses up a limited amount of energy, right? Like, I spent so much of today just like trying to get this streaming when I could have been doing other things, and I mean, I think it's worth doing that, but it's also like something that I definitely have to like really work toward. It doesn't just happen by itself. So I mean, it's not going to be something you just get for free. You can't just like easily hang out. I mean, it's fun to project that image sometimes, but I hope I don't make a convincing illusion of it, because I don't want it to seem like this is just something that anyone can do without any like cost. It's a toll on at least like time and mental health and energy, and the equipment certainly isn't cheap. So I don't know, I appreciate everyone's support. I just also, it's hard when I'm both getting support and getting this message that, oh, we just don't want anything, we just want to like see you around. It's like, well, yeah, but it's hard to just be around, so I'd like to have a reason to just be around, you know? It's like if you devalue it, there's no reason for it to be valuable. Yeah, in case anyone didn't hear me ramble about this on the last stream, I'm in the process of trying to move to a new place. So I'm trying to buy a house in a city nearby. So I'll be, if everything goes according to plan, spending January actually physically moving everything. But right now I'm still pretty busy just like trying to get everything ready to move. My life is made of boxes, and I'm trying to pack stuff up and plan out how the new space is going to be and everything else. And I've been trying to also not completely disappear from the internet while that's happening, but I feel like I'm overwhelmed enough as it is trying to interact with fans. Like interacting with fans while I'm also trying to move has been hard, and I haven't been sure how to do that in a way that's healthy and maintain motivation for it. And so, I don't know, I'm just rambling at this point. And petting the cat. That's the most important part, right? Yeah, and I mean, I think this, I've said this a few times, but this place that I'm in right now is, like, it's impressive to show people, like, on the internet or in person. I get a lot of comments that, oh, this place is great. And it certainly seemed nice to me at first. But at this point, this place feels really, really detrimental to my mental health. Like, having a single box that has to contain the clean stuff and the messy stuff and the cat stuff and the personal stuff and the work stuff all at the same time, all the time, with no doors and no heating and no insulation, kind of sucks. So I'm really looking forward to moving to a different kind of place. And the thing where it, in practice, actually sucks, but my experience of talking to people about it is mostly like, oh, I'm so jealous, that's so cool. It's alienating and it sucks and it just pushes me further away from people and I hate it. I think if anything, living in a place that's less weird and less interesting is going to be helpful, because it won't be the only thing people ever want to talk about. It'll be just like a normal house, like people live in. Yeah, I mean, if I was living here by myself, without Tuco, without a roommate, and if it wasn't completely unaffordable, and if I was planning on just like staying here for a long time, and I could insulate it, and like build better heating and better sound insulation, that might be fine, right? But I mean, there are several big reasons why I can't stay here. The biggest one is the expensiveness. Like, I'm renting here, and the rent is way too much. But it's also just cold. It's like this whole building is uninsulated. It's like really energy inefficient. There's sort of heating, but it doesn't work very well, and I don't like to use it because it's so inefficient. And I had different feelings about like San Francisco and the neighborhood and Bay Area and Emeryville and all this, but I mean, right now I feel like just pretty exhausted by all of that. And I'm not moving so far away that I can't still visit the Bay Area, but it won't be like my default location. Yeah, and a lot of my neighbors have been moving out too, and I think some of my neighbors are looking for places, and we didn't really coordinate either, but I think they might be moving to the same city that I'm trying to move to, so that's kind of funny. Yeah, separate living spaces, like separate bedrooms for significant others, totally a good idea. I've lived in the same room and in different rooms, and having different rooms has always been much better. And even the roommate that I had here for a while, like that was always kind of tricky, because like we don't even have separate rooms here. We just tried to like divide the loft space in half. I mean, this space is a loft. It technically is a loft. It is a warehouse space that a loft was built into. So, like, this fits all the definitions of loft that I'm aware of. I was going to show you my overhead camera, but I think it's positioned weirdly right now. Oh. Yes. Well, you can at least see how tall this place is, right? So, like, there's my hand. You can see me next to the me. And then here's Tuco Flyer. And then that big beam is approximately the same vertical height as the loft, and the camera right now is sitting on the loft, looking out that way. I usually have the camera on the wall, but I already took it off, or no. It was on, yeah, it was somewhere else, and then I moved it to try to get a better view of Tuco, but it was like attached to some furniture that I've since packed up. Place should come with a cherry picker. Yeah, right? Yeah, the verticality of this place is pretty challenging. I do have a tall ladder, but I hate ladders, so I really don't like using it. I've seen them doing painting in some of the neighboring units, and they had to put up scaffolding. Like they couldn't even use a cherry picker or a ladder to do it. They just had to build a scaffold across the entire interior wall. Oh yeah, did I say Tuco got up there? Yes. Tuco has been on many of these roof beams. Let's see if I can get a picture. Test the low light performance on this camera. So there's Tuco. How's our upness? So there's the studio light with all the brightness. Okay, so this is the level we're at right now. And that's the red beam we were looking at from the other camera. And then that's the roof. So yeah, Tuco has been on that, I mean, I think Tuco has been on pretty much everything you can see in this picture. He hasn't been on the horizontal roof struts, but he's been on the, I don't think there's even enough room for a cat to walk on the edges of the roof I-beams. But he's been on that truss. So like that one with the gas pipe. I don't really have a good way to point here. So Tuco has been on that level. He's also been on this level and that level. Oh, interesting. Nick says that they prefer ladders to scaffolding. Yeah, I guess I can see that. I really hate heights in general, and just being up there on a ladder is the worst thing. Tuco is very agile. I don't really worry about him walking on that beam. I think it's in that video that LF linked in chat, but he was jumping down from... Oh, actually, I think in that video I went up there and grabbed him because I don't like it when he jumps down. But yeah, he has done this thing where he gets up on that beam and then he has to jump down from there. So what does he do? He jumps to this... I'm using it as a curtain rod, but I think originally in this building it was made to actuate the windows. It's just this like horizontal pipe. And so he'll jump onto that pipe and then jump down from there. And it's just this tiny thing. I can't imagine landing on that. But he's a cat, and he's really good at that. I think he's in the mood to wander again. Yeah, this place is very big. I've also always wanted like a winch in the very center of the place where I can hoist stuff. I guess it's a hoist, it's not a winch, but yeah. I've wanted that, but yeah, I haven't actually gone up there on a 30-foot ladder with the right kind of beam clamp. I don't even know really what the roof is rated for, and I don't want to cave the roof in. But yeah, it's pretty high. And that's all concrete. Parts of this building, that's a skylight, but on my unit, I'm assuming the skylight failed at some point and they replaced it all with concrete. And then Pardon the light, the bright studio lights, but... Oh, you can probably see that other camera over here. Yeah, that's the other camera. Just kind of sitting on some boxes at an unhelpful angle. Oh yeah, and there's one of the winches up there in the corner. Well, we have 3 working winches, for whatever that's worth. Well, I think it might be time to make a sandwich and hang out with my cat. I guess I don't have to end this video to make a sandwich and hang out with my cat. Depends on how much folks want to hang out still. I think there's actually more folks watching now than there were earlier. I could plug in this orb thing. I guess I still could take some last photography. I feel like I've got a lot of video of it, but it's like if there's something I'm giving away or selling or destroying, it's like kind of my last time to get video of it. Tuco makes me so nervous by crawling around on these wires. I think they're all cat-proofed, but he's so good at finding the ones that aren't. Cat-proofed is really tempting fate. I've applied a cat-resistant covering. Plug in the art. Are you trying to chew on that too? Right? He's pen testing my cable protection. That's exactly how it feels. That's a good question. Thomas is wondering if I have a total viewer count across platforms. I don't. I don't actually have a view count for Diode Zone. I'd have to go check the server logs to see how many people are... I mean, actually, I guess the easiest way to check is by looking at how much bandwidth I'm using. But I don't have that in an easy to... like, just an easy number right now. And then, yeah, I've got separate view counters for Twitch and for YouTube. Oh yeah, Station 240 on YouTube chat says that you could fit an entire second room up there. That is very true. When I had a roommate, that's something that they and I talked about doing, is that they could have like a bedroom that was in that extra space, but they never got around to actually, like, that's a serious construction project, and I think that was more the like shooting the shit kind of talking level of planning. I don't think they were quite serious enough to undertake a serious construction project in a rental property. I feel like the soothing orb song would be more soothing if it wasn't for all the fan noise, but it's doing its best. Right? Very few things are truly cat-proof. That is very correct. Took took. Been slightly less of a hermit around the neighbors lately, and it's nice that Tuco gets along with some of the neighbor humans and neighbor cats and dogs. He is now pen testing my sandbags. Yeah, the orb is a strange object. I don't understand quite. Like, I don't know, it's like it's an art object, right? But it's also a technological artifact. It's like an electrical device that there is one of. And I'm gonna include all the code and everything, but it is also just an electrical device that there is a single instance of, which is always a strange category of object. gonna regret trying to go handheld with this. Really, Tuco Flyer could be replaced by me holding the camera and a long SDI cable. I just have to not have anything else to do. Oh my gosh, speaking of Tuco needing, like the armored SDI, I caught Tuco nibbling on the inch of SDI cable that was exposed past the cat protection on this very camera. I was really annoyed by that. I think he brought me a bolt. I've actually tried bitterants to keep Tuco from chewing on cables, and it doesn't seem to work. You got it. Good job. That was a hard one. that was overheating. I was worried that it lost the file when it overheated. It seems like we still at least have that video. Okay. I should let the camera cool off. This camera is not quite as good at low light, but yeah, I'm thinking it might be sandwich time in a sec. It's better than I expected, at least. I could try to go make a sandwich and leave the camera on Tuco here, but I feel like the minute I do that, Tuco's gonna come to the kitchen and try to make the situation more complicated. Maybe I will also call it a night, make a sandwich, and get back to packing stuff. Maybe just pack up some of these winches, since it does seem like Tuco Flyer might make more sense to pack up right now than to try to fix, since I don't have a great option for fixing that fourth motor right now. But anyway, if you're watching this in the archives, feel free to let me know what you think on any of the usual social medias or comments of various platforms, or whatever, you know. Send me cat treats to the P.O. Box. Anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see everyone next time. I might be able to do some more streaming from here, but yeah, I'm going to be mostly trying to focus on packing, and if I can stream some more before packing up the streaming equipment, I'll try to do that, but I don't want to make too many promises right now. Speaking of the P.O. Box, I am planning on keeping that for as long as I can, so, I mean, I'll be checking it less frequently, but it's just like a 2-hour train trip or so between the P.O. Box and where I'm going to be, so that should be alright. Be able to do that occasionally. Alright, I'll see y'all next time.